probably a good time to note that I am not set up to work on heavy stuff. The engines, I have everything I need, and we're able to get everything done there just fine, but this transmission, I have no way to move it around reliably, and I did drop it. I'm gonna try removing it, or putting it together outside the car. We may do the flywheel bolts in the car, because I think that'll be a little bit easier. I don't know, there's really no easy to this. All that to say, you don't need a lot of crazy tools to be able to do this kind of stuff. It's just not the most convenient, and it's pretty frustrating if you're trying to film a YouTube channel while you're doing it as well. But we're getting there, we're almost there. So this has got to go to that, then this unit will go into the car, and we'll have to move the car around. I'm not the most excited about this part, but once it's in the engine, once the engine's in the car, I think I'm going to be pretty excited. Assuming nothing leaks. That's the big if right now. All right, let's get it.
And also, that might not want the cylinder.
Right. I think we're finally ready to install this guy. When you do a project like this, it's huge, obviously. There's a million projects. Well, probably not a million, but I would say at least like 500 or 600 different little projects that you have to take care of. And the only way to do it without going insane is looking at the little projects. And we'll just throw one bolt in there, and then I'll get the rest. Anyway, this is like what you would use for a turbo setup. Not normally for just a regular one, but what I want to do is run this off of here, assuming it fits. I think it will. Run this off of here and use the factory air intake. All right, next up is the harness. I have a decent idea of where these go. All right, these cars are known to have incredibly weak ignitions, so we are updating that with an MSD coil and 6AL. The coil I'm using is the MSD Blaster High Vibration. It's the same one I use on my 911. It actually mounts to the engine on the 911, so it's constantly shaking. This is gonna be an off-road car mostly, so having a high vibration coil will do it good. All right, with this car, you need an amplifier to run your tachometer. It's just the way that this magnetic signal is set up from the distributor. So that's an 8910 amplifier, also from MSD. And then finally, the 6AL. Now, all we have to do is make all of this wiring talk to the car. So fuel pump, power to the ECU, different outputs and inputs. I'll have to look up and see what each color does, but we'll probably use those, get rid of every car function as we can, and let the Holly control most of everything. We got a big boy.
Oh, yo, Yellowtop?
Batteries. We went with this one because it was kind of like, I just never want this thing to have any issues. The internet. Now, everything I've bought is pretty much Amazon. I'll leave links below for everything just in case you're trying to do something like this and you need the same kind of stuff. Amazon's wire prices are pretty good. Everything was just cut, so I'm having to kind of guess, but this ground goes straight to the chassis from the battery. It's a very short route, so I think this is gonna be my main ground. This is a battery terminal by a company called V-Gate, again, in the description below. And you just have easy places to plug wires in.
Yo, Yellowtop? I hear you.
For big stuff like this, there are special crimpers you can buy. They're pretty expensive. I have a vise from Wilton, so I will just be using that and a razor blade to snip away as much of this sheath as I need. Just something that I do, I don't know if it's correct, but I kind of let the vise hang off a little bit so you can see we get like a really hard crimp line there, and it does seem to work. All right, this stuff takes a ton of heat to shrink, but I did get it shrunk. You can see it looks really nice. It looks like a factory cable, and you don't have to worry about seams or peeling like you would for electrical tape. Neat. They kind of go the same route. It's gonna be this one. I had to use two hands here, but to give you a reference, this is the front of the vehicle. Looking up, you have the starter solenoid right here. This black wire is the ground that we ran, and then this wire back here, this red one, runs up to this solenoid. So you can see it runs back up. Both of those, actually this one runs to the chassis, this black wire. The red one runs to the battery. These were for AWG, and we bumped them up. Might have been a little bit smaller actually, this ground, but we bumped them up to 0/1s. All right, so for the first time since I've owned this car, we have a place to plug our battery in. I've got this. This is a waterproof fuse panel. It's 6 fuse panels, so not a ton of stuff, but I think it's enough for us to wire our Holly into this. Still using all the stock wiring and stuff, but just kind of getting rid of all of the engine ignition harness. Mainly for diagnostic purposes. This is really cool. If the fuse goes out, it lights up, so that's cool. So it's easy to diagnose, but also it's like, if you have an engine or ignition problem, then you know it's in this circuit. I am a really big fan of this blue wire. It's kind of translucent, so you get a little metallic shine to it. Pretty sweet. And I'm gonna use this for any powering that I've gotta do that's not factory. So obviously this fuse panel is not factory. I think if I'm not working on this in the future, somebody that comes in and looks at it, we ought to see like, oh, okay, this is obviously not Rover, power cable. And I think it's just going to make diagnosing problems a lot easier for someone who maybe is not so familiar with the build. I'm trying to make all of this very straightforward. I'm going to label on my wires and stuff just to make it easy to work on, but you never know. I just think this is going to help, is what I meant to say. All right, so this is going to feed through here. This is how I'm going to make it switched power. This is just a 75 amp relay. You can see it's got 2 huge posts here for power, and you've got your ground and your switch. And I think that's just going to work. So basically, as you apply a power to the switch power, one of these is switch, I'm not sure which one, the other one's ground. When you complete that circuit, a magnet, electromagnet clicks on here, connecting our powers and sending power to that. So my idea is take the power from the key, run an independent keyed power to this relay, and when you turn the key on, this relay will flick. That'll turn our fuse box on. If you work on cars by yourself, one of these is really useful. This is a trigger with basically 2 power wires that will interrupt the signal. So we'll go power on one side and then power to the other, and when you pull the trigger, bridges the 2. And it's great for starting motors when you don't have someone who can sit in the car. So I'm going to bridge this real quick, and then to power. And if our relay's good, when I hit the switch, and here. All right, that's great. That should not have been that hard. There we go. All right. So what we're gonna do now is follow this red wire, red and white wire, and I'm gonna create a harness for this. Now I depinned it, so it's not really destructive, but we may end up having to do a solder connection here just to carry that wire into the engine bay. Let's figure it out. All right, here's what I've got now. This is my solution at the moment. We've got 2 wires here. You can see they're both labeled, starter switch, and this one I burnt a little bit, but starter switch. And then we've got our label here, EFI fuse panel. I'm gonna go ahead and route these wires because that won't change. This is a thick 12 gauge. This one is like a 14, I think. And we've got some welding wire hidden up underneath there that I've fished through behind the dashboard. We're gonna grab these 2 wires with the welding wire and pull them through behind the dash back over there. There's some holes in the firewall we can pop through, and we'll be able to run these to our fuse panel here, and then our switched ignition here.
Yo, Yellowtop, I hear you.
Starter switch, then you hit print. I love this thing so much. You can get white, you can get, I'm not sure if they make black. I like yellow, I think yellow looks cool. All right, so with that, we should be able to hit the key and crank the car. Nothing, awesome. All right, now let's try. Key on works. Yes! All right, so a lot of the mystery now is gone. I know how to turn the car on and how to make it start, which is awesome. And I know where all those wires are and where they go, and they're all labeled, which is even better. So that's cool. The car does turn over, which means we can finally do the fun part. I think I've been talking about this diagram already. I don't think I've showed it to you guys. This is the wiring diagram I drew. I did this in Adobe Illustrator. It's actually kind of fun. I like doing this kind of stuff. And it basically says where all the wiring goes. So I was looking for all-terrains for it and saw the accelerator on it. I was like, oh, heck yeah. Yeah.
Actually, that's probably for real true. Yo, Yellowtop, I hear you.
All right, I had a few days off of this just to put you in the timeline. We're at Christmas now. This has been a much bigger project than I expected, as they all are. But it's been really fun, and it's been a good learning experience for me. I've done a lot of things that I've always wanted to do, one of them being this. Now, this is a mess. And you will see it's probably overwhelming or stress-inducing for you, but it all makes sense and goes somewhere. And the reason it's a mess is I'm going to go ahead and get it all wired. There's more wires to come, and then we'll get the engine running. And once the engine runs and I know it's going to operate, then we'll tuck all the wires in and sheath them. And it'll all be, you won't see any of this. So as you can see, this is still pretty loose, but it is connected. I had to drill out the hole for the mount here. I'm guessing this is just a weird end, and I wanted to use factory stuff, so we did loop it around. We'll see how the pedal feels inside. First, I'm gonna go in there and test it and see if it works. You guys will have to tell me because I can't actually see it. Here we go. This is gonna be your return over here. The side with the throttle is your send or your feed line. These are two parts. You have the collar and the piece that actually goes down into the hose. The collar goes on first, and there's a shelf in there that the hose has to butt up against. The trick is to try to keep it from messing up your braided portion. I really want to do this for the MGB cooling system. Here's the weir there. I'm going to take some tape and put it at the base right here. Instead it pushes the hose out. We'll be able to see it because the tape will have moved. Down at all, which is awesome. And we have a really cool piece. That's awesome. All right, next is the other side. All right, so our fuel pump is bad, I believe, but even if it's not, it's been sitting for a really long time without any sort of use. So I'm going to replace it. Now, in the 90 model Range Rover Classic, you have a fuel door or an access panel that folds up. In this model, you don't have an access panel. A lot of people on the internet were saying to drop the tank. I think that's insane. They're saying that's easier than drilling out rivets. So I figured that I would talk about this really quickly. Drilling rivets out. Drilling rivets is really easy. They're aluminum, not steel. Get a bit that's like the size of the rivet. They've got a center point, so you don't even have to like hit them with anything. And you just drill them, and as you drill, the rivet breaks loose, and then you just pry the thing off. It's so easy. This is my fresh fuel pump. I'm pretty sure it's like a universal unit, but to give you an idea, there's the two next to each other. This thing is in really bad shape. Maybe you're supposed to use the stylus? Okay, that's no good. And we had issues with the fuel lines, which ended up being a blessing because we have reduced our fail point. So we used to have a fitting here and then 2 there into the fitting there, and then another fail point down here that I didn't know about. And 1, 2, 3 more on this line. Now we've reduced that to where it's just braided line going down to hard line. I have it clamped on right now. We'll see if that works. If it works, probably gonna go. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Wrap it up and be done. If it doesn't work, we can use some compression fittings on there, but I think it's gonna work. And dry. All right, so fuel lines are done. First problem fixed. On to the next. I think we need to go through this setup wizard again. New touchscreen works great. Right. Oh, this is so nerve-wracking. Starter sounds good, ignition is wrong. So we have to go through all that and figure it out. I think I know what it is. Well, I know where to start. All right, so I swapped my signal and power wire on the distributor. Maybe that's gonna do it. There is a dizzying amount of things that have been done to this engine, from replacing the entire ignition system and how it functions, to replacing the entire fuel injection system and how it functions, to replacing the heads and doing mechanical work, replacing the cam, replacing the timing chain, everything. There's so much that could go wrong and one thing that could go right. So we'll see. Maybe we'll get a signal. Let's try that. No way. No way. It's like I come out here a lot and wonder why I do this, out in the rain and the cold sometimes, and recently the situation has just not been great. But man, it's the feeling of that it worked. All of this, how in the world? Holy cow. All right, so we've got some stuff that's got to happen. Oh my gosh. I cannot believe this thing runs. Oh wow. This car has sat since 2009. This engine doesn't even belong in here. I don't even know if I'm in the frame of the camera. Okay, so we've got the biggest leak that we had, which I think I filmed, was coming from my modified thermostat housing, and it was because when I mounted it, the thermostat had slipped down out of its little indentation. We caught as much coolant as we could, put it back in the system. What that means is we should be able to turn this on, fuel pump on, and primed. Poly sniper is on. We can monitor everything here. Alright, I think I know what the noise is. Good news is it runs pretty well, and the noise that I was hearing that I was so concerned with, I'm almost certain is the flex plate. There's like a rubber line that was touching one of the pulleys, and that just obliterated the line. And so I took that line to my local hose and hydraulic shop. If you don't have a relationship with yours, you should do that because they will get you out of so much trouble. They've already helped me with a lot of Porsche lines, and they fixed this one. You can see we've added a braided line in with some junctions there, and then the OEM port here, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna work really well.
Yo, Yellowtop? I hear ya.
I don't know how long this has been for you guys. I'm hoping maybe 2 episodes, but it's been a really long time coming for me. This is the biggest project I've ever taken on that wasn't my own. It rivals the MG in terms of mechanicking. But I think I have a running car. I just installed the drive shaft, so what we're gonna do is start the car up, put it in drive, which I can do now, which is awesome, and let it idle. We'll let the wheels spin, hit the brakes, see if the brakes work. If they do, I'll be able to set it down and drive it today, which is the goal. I want to drive it around the lot today. I'm about to go out of town, and it would just be a great way to go out of town, like knowing that it works. So that's the plan. I will pull the wheels back off and go use my Phoenix power bleeder on all 4 wheels just to get it all solid and perfect. But I'm kind of anxious just to see if it'll work as is. I know the e-brake works, so maybe we'll drive on the e-brake. Let's see what happens. Look at that. I'm gonna go run an errand, and then we'll set it down and we'll drive it around the lot. These rocker panels hold an absurd amount of water. Definitely want to get that sorted. Wish me luck. car's been sitting here for like 4.5 months. I thought that I would leave it here in front of my garage doors to encourage me to finish it, and it worked. You guys that have followed the channel know I have issues with finishing things. People call it ADHD. I just think it's lack of focus and excitement about creating stuff. This is the first engine swap, and I'm calling it that because it's a totally different engine, 4.2 liter, and totally different EFI system, all that cool stuff, ignition, all of it. It's the first engine swap car that I've driven. Now, I don't know when this comes out in the timeline of build. I'm kind of just trying to finish projects for you guys, but I should be picking up the MG drive shaft tomorrow, which means I'll have that feeling again very, very soon. All of this work is finally starting to pay off, and feels really good, honestly. It feels great. So I came out here to move this thing. We've been working on this car for so long, man. So long. And it's just been a big project. It's needed everything. I mean, it's needed everything. But you guys, I have seen the video of me idling it and revving it and things like that, and I thought it was good. I thought everything was fine. Something I didn't do that I definitely should have done was install an oil pressure gauge. There's an oil pressure light, but it's not, I guess it's not functional at the moment, at least. Let me just tell you what happened. So I brought it out, and I actually drove it right out here to take pictures of it. And engine sounded a little weird, but it hadn't run in a while. I thought it had to warm up, it'll be okay. Started kind of squeaking, sounded like the belt was squeaking, as I was backing it up back to like its kind of parking spot where I've been working on it. And then it just stopped, like stopped. And I'll show you what I mean. If you try to start it, let me see, is the key still in here? Yeah. So try to start it. Listen. What you're hearing is, I guess, the starter loading up. The crankshaft is totally seized. I pulled all the belts off of it. I was thinking maybe the pulley for something else, power steering or whatever, seized up and that was holding the crankshaft still, but no luck. It's seized. So I pulled all the spark plugs out last night, sprayed some PB Blaster. I heard that could work. It was kind of just like a last-ditch effort, and no luck there. So I've got a seized engine. There's a lot of bummers here. One of the big ones is that this is a customer car, and really took my time through the engine and everything to try to make sure that we didn't have any issues like this. So I'll be eating the cost of this. That's just what it is, and it's fine. We can get it done. I've got people that I know that love engines and that are really good at engines that I may take this to. I've still got to do the interior, so I've started putting the interior back in. I think I filmed this, but anyway, you can see interior's going back in. I'm refinishing some wood now. Well, we should finally have a running driving car, except the engine's kind of seized up, so we got to fix that. But then we'll have a running driving car for a little while, at least. All right, I'm done talking. I'm going to sand some stuff and paint some stuff because I know how to do that.